important to you. So that's how I'm going to do it. And Anju, I'm going to introduce her as a parent, as a foster parent who has worked with several children and her perspective on that.
Okay, ladies, we are online. And yeah, carry on. Thank you.
Namaste and a very good evening to all our inspiring Indian women viewers who watch us on YouTube, Facebook, and globally on several topics throughout the lockdown that have been very special and close to our hearts. When I say close to our hearts, I say that with great respect because we go through as women problems that deal with our children, problems that deal with our children, the problems that deal with social media, problems that deal with us coming to a certain age, problems that generally deal with mindfulness and well-being. Today we have with us a great personality. She's an expert on mental health. I'm sure she'll be very humble and say, no, I'm nothing like that. But I truly believe that in my times of need, I have always reached out to her to guide me. And she does that very subtly and very lovingly. And for someone of Asian origin, to deal with mental health is usually considered taboo. So today I take it with great importance that as Asians, South Asians, it is important for us to deal with problems that deal with our children very seriously and make sure that we do something about it. So I'd like to welcome Simi Sachdeva Mohan. I'll call her Dr. Simi Sachdeva Mohan because she's an expert on mental health. I will ask her about her expertise and she'll tell us a little bit about her background. So if you have questions after this program for her, you can talk to her. Before I introduce her, I also have Anju Narang, who is a foster parent and who has life experience on dealing with children from different backgrounds and how in this country, United Kingdom, it is hard to be a foster parent and survive for a long time, but she's done it for a decade. So she has a wealth of experience that she'd like to share with you. Today is Mental Health Day, World Mental Health Day. So it is our onus to make sure that we share with you tips on how to improve your mental health and ways to deal with any issues that are relevant to you today. Today's topic is bullying in children. So on that note, I'm going to say welcome, Dr. Mohan, and tell me, how would you like to let people know about what you do and give us a little background about who you are and where you come from?
So I have been practicing psychiatry for over 25 years. I trained initially in India in Bombay, and then I have trained in UK again because our psychiatry degree from India wasn't recognized at the time. I am an expert in general adult psychiatry, women's mental health. I also do perinatal mental health. I do forensic and secure services. I deal with borderline personality disorders and adult ADHD. And I have recently been awarded the fellowship of the Royal College of Psychiatrists. So that's me in brief.
And that's a lot of qualifications, and we will be able to get great advice from you on several topics. I may call you Simi because as someone that I consider a friend, I also think it's important that, people that want to reach out to you afterwards can feel, you know what, it's not a formidable prospect of reaching out to an expert.
Not at all. Not at all. I am always available.
Now, according to the NSPCC, bullying is behavior that hurts someone else. It indicates processes of calling people names, hitting, pushing, spreading rumors, threatening, or undermining someone. It can happen anywhere, at school, home, or online. It's usually repeated over a long period of time and can hurt a child both physically and emotionally. Looking at facts and figures based on this kind of circumstance, I've from several websites, including the Children's Society, I found out that 75% of young children or young people are not getting the help needed. coming from a South Asian background, Simi, what do you think on this topic, and how have you dealt with this taboo subject of reaching to support people that need mental health help?
I think, unfortunately, the problem with bullying is that the child feels very scared to talk about it. That's the first thing. In our times, we did not have the online bullying happening because online did not exist. Now there are various different platforms where there's potential for online bullying, including WhatsApp, Snapchat, Facebook, Instagram, everything. And the child has to feel empowered to be able to speak to their parents about it. And I think, even as a parent myself, I often feel that my child does not want to talk to me about it because he thinks he should be able to deal with it himself. And that's where the problem is, because not every child is equipped to handle some of the things that are being said and done. And of course, then you have the usual bullying in the actual social atmosphere, whether it is school, whether it's outside of school, where you're alienated by your friends that you have. And it puts the child in a very difficult situation, because they don't know that, sometimes they don't even know that they're being bullied. That's the problem. So it's something that has to be looked at and talked about more in the family environment. And to reinforce to the child that no matter what is happening to you, that is not right, and how are you going to cope with it. And that is where the problem is, because children often don't want to get alienated from their friends, so they sort of put up with this kind of behavior, because they think, if I say something, I will not be part of the clique or the group anymore, which is quite a sad situation to be in, because everybody wants to belong. We all want to belong.
So here's my question to you. Let's look at one aspect of bullying. And because I'm talking to a group that is called Inspiring Indian Women, a lot of the people that will watch us inadvertently will be Asian origin people. As an Asian parent, I struggled with getting mental health help because I thought, you know what, it's what will they think? Log kya kahenge, right? That is our biggest issue.
That is
So,
always the biggest issue.
what do you think we should, as parents, start from an early age?
I think we need to have a dialogue and a communication going on right from uh, quite early on, especially when the children start school, for them to understand the boundaries of what is acceptable and what is not acceptable. And if they come across something that is upsetting them, we need to give them the courage to be able to speak to us as parents. I think Indian parents tend, or Asian parents tend to sweep a lot of things under the carpet. And that's where the child then doesn't feel able to talk about things. And that's where we need to make a change in our households.
So, with that in mind, what you're saying to us, and I hope people that watch us afterwards understand that when we deal with young children from an early age, the dialogue, the communication channels must remain open. Somebody said to me, "Oh, you know what? This was someone along the same age group as me." A gentleman said to me, "Thoda to hai na, you should have a little bit respect for parents. You shouldn't become very buddy, pally with your child, because then the boundaries are crossed." What do you think on that?
I think at different ages, our roles as parents have to change. So somebody in a primary school age group, yes, we have to be more boundaried and we have to be more parental. But when somebody goes into secondary school,
What
they
age would?
want, so that I'm talking about anywhere between 12 years onwards, where the role has to be redefined so that the child feels comfortable to talk to us about what's happening. So I have a teenager. So every time I ask him, how was school? Good. What was the
Yeah.
best part? Everything. What was not good? Nothing. So I have this monosyllabic conversation with him every evening when I pick him up. But I know that something more is going on. So we as parents, both my husband and I, then take the time out to just be with him, to talk a bit more. And then I have now discovered that his close friends, one of them is transgender, one of them is non-binary, and these are things which we would never really know because these things didn't exist, or they did exist but we never heard of them as teenagers.
No.
So then to understand that, because I was then corrected by him, that when I called his non-binary friend as he or she, he said, please do not refer to them like that. They prefer to be referred to as they. So that was again, I knew it, but inadvertently I still used the gender pronoun, which I was corrected by him and I respect it.
So when you, I've read here what you mentioned at the age of, 12, you start secondary school and, you start getting the problems. Again, looking at statistics here, it says 50% of all mental health problems start by the age of 14. So that's what your suggestion is a great one, because say if you are communicating to your secondary school child at that age, then you've got the roughly 2-3 years window to make sure that you are communicating and you're aware of their mental health condition, as in just their mental health situation, good or bad. I'm not even making a point.
I don't think it's always that easy. To be honest, children at that age are going through so many changes, okay?
Right.
They're going through hormonal changes, they're getting facial hair, they're getting pimples, they are attracted to either men or women, and they don't understand any of that. And it is up to us as parents to tell them what is normal for them. Their normality might be different from what I consider normal,
Right.
and to accept that their normality is different. So if my child, for example, comes and says to me tomorrow that I'm bisexual or I'm gay, if I don't support him, then he is going to feel rejected. He's going to make decisions that will not be helpful at all. So we have to accept that our child has their own identity, not only the sexual identity, but the pressure on them at this time for the GCSEs, for the A levels, performance wise. Asian parents are far, far more demanding of their children most of the time. I have realized that, me being one of them as well. So I would say that I think dialogue is very important. We want to support our children. We need to be sure that we're doing it in the right way. And they might be attracted to somebody of the opposite sex, which is fine. But they might be hesitant to tell us because that person might not be Asian or might not be Indian. So they don't know how we are going to react to it.
So the way I've been sort of tempering this conversation towards, or trying to channel this so that people who watch us later understand, number one, what we've tried to figure out is, first of all, where the problems come from. Second, at what age we need to start the communication channels. Thirdly, what you're guiding us with, trying to understand the various aspects of problems that children will be having at that age. So knowledge is power. That's what you're telling us. Now, let's talk a little bit about, Simi, as Asian parents, you talked about expectations. Now, if a child is being bullied at school or is under social pressure at school, how do you think we should bring those kind of conversations onto maybe the dinner table or one-to-one chats when we have with our child?
I think it's very complex. There's no right or wrong answer to this. I think it is about how much your child is able to communicate to you. And sometimes it can happen that they don't want to talk about these kind of things. But I think as parents, we have to sometimes be more pushy about it, because if the child is not telling us but he's distressed, then we have to know what's going on. And sometimes if we have to take the need of the school teachers or the pastor or anybody else in the school to observe if he or she is not happy in school, what is going on at the time. So we might have to be more proactive than what our child wants us to be. And I think that does make a lot of difference. So if the school starts sort of reviewing it, if they start observing the child, they come to know that they are being bullied, or they notice things that is making them unhappy and they let us know about it, then we can have that dialogue with the child to say, look, I know something is going on. You haven't told me about it. I want to help you with it. I want to help you deal with it without causing any problems with your friends. So, how are we going to do that? I think communication starts very early on. It starts right when, even before school starts, to be honest. You have to empower your child to believe in themselves. As they go through primary school, they are much more communicative as such. And that's where the dialogue starts. As they go into their teenage years, they tend to be more withdrawn. But if you reiterate to them, I'm here for you. Do you want to talk about it? Is there something that's upsetting you? As long as that dialogue keeps going on, I think the child will at some point feel comfortable enough and tell you that I'm upset about this.
Okay, so again, the very important factor that you're reiterating is talking to us about communication. As Asian parents, those kind of channels, when we were growing up, I could not tell my mother what I was going through personally, and it was a very,
Absolutely.
and she
Absolutely.
often, even now, although we're so close, she often tells me, I can't believe something so mammoth was happening to you and you never even brought it up with me. I said, you know what? We weren't at that point when I was young to open a dialogue. And I'm glad that from an early age, parents today are being educated to keep those channels open. One of the things that I'm reading whilst I was doing research for our chat today was about the studies that they found where cyber victims were at a high risk for depression, and that cyber bullies or even the bullies themselves were depressed, and therefore they were bullying people that were easy victims. So I'm going to ask this question to Simi, you first, and then I've noticed Kirti Soni, who is also a psychologist, has joined in, and then I'll ask Anju to give her perspective when she was fostering children, how she dealt with children who were depressed, and how do people figure out that they were depressed. So there are three questions here. So Simi, please deal with it as you see fit.
So let me start off with saying that people who bully, why do they bully? Because they want a sense of power. And that's also the reason why, even in work environments, when somebody is not happy within themselves, they are unable to see somebody else happy, and that is when they behave in a fashion so that to feel some kind of control, because they don't have that control over their own lives, or
Mm.
they are not able to communicate their dissatisfaction about something. So it's easier to find somebody who's more vulnerable and to try and bully them.
Okay. So that's
Coming
one.
to That's one point. Coming on to online bullying, the whole issue of anonymity comes in, where in school people know who you are, whom you are bullying, how you're doing it, and that doesn't give a good impression at all. Whereas things like Snapchat, where whatever you say disappears soon after. So and I think there's another one called telonym, telonom.
No, I
Oh,
haven't.
I could be wrong, but again, in that one, you can send anonymous messages without your identity being revealed. So you can send nasty messages to somebody,
Oh,
and that person won't even know who's sending those messages.
so as a parent, I think you are also saying that we have to be aware about what our children, what kind of social media channels our children are using to be able
Absolutely,
themselves being victims of those kind of, okay,
absolutely. And
gadgets. Yeah.
because the thing is, like, I think we should be knowing what apps our children are downloading on their phones or their gadgets, and also with their permission keep some degree of observation on those channels, because the children will not tell you that this is what is being said to me, but
Correct.
we have to then be more proactive, because online is a completely different ball game as compared to what we have been brought up with.
Correct.
And
Correct.
that's where we have to look at that. And our children will not want us to look at their phones and things, but at
Mm.
times we have to say, no, I think I need to have a look at your phone to see what is going on. Because if you can see your child is definitely unhappy about something, then you have to step in to say, no, something is going on and I need to understand what it is.
So one question before I move on to Dr. Kirti, I don't know if I would ask
Yes.
uh, Kirti Soni and Anju about different circumstances of depression. One last question to you, Simi. Depression is such a big word, right? It's like a big umbrella that covers everything and anything under the sun, from sadness to great situations of bipolar conditions. So let's just deal with one aspect of it here. As a parent, are there small signs that we should be aware of to figure out, because we're not experts, but if we feel our child might be depressed, is there something we should have our ears perked up to, or no?
um, Yes, I think the thing is the child will never tell you they're depressed.
Correct.
And you have to look at subtle signs, whether they're sleeping well, whether they're eating well, whether their school homework is getting completed in time. And one thing I would always say is that as a teenager, you tend to catastrophize a lot. So if one of your friends has not spoken to you in school, you think that's the end of the world. You
Yes.
don't know why that has happened,
Hmm.
and you think you have done something for that to happen, and that's like the end of the world, that's the end of the friendship. What did I do? What can I do differently? And feeling that, oh my god, my life is coming to an end. And to pick up those signs that, you know things can happen which is not what you anticipated, but that does not mean that life is over, because that's when teenagers act out the most. And that is what, as a parent, you have to be hyper vigilant about these kind of things.
Okay, thank you, Simi. I'm going to go over to Kirti. Welcome, Kirti Soni. I believe you have expertise in this subject. So tell us a little bit about your background before I would like you to start with where we are at the moment, talking about depression and how that could be a symptom of bullying. And as parents, where do we see it and how do we see it?
All right. Okay. First of all, thank you, Darshini, for hosting. Thank you, Rashmi, for the invitation. Thank you, Inspiring Indian Women, for everything that you always do. And hi, Simi. Simi is my my mental health top-up pill every morning. Every morning, Simi, you know this. But she is my daily antidepressant. So she keeps me going. And Anju, lovely to see you again. It's a shame we're seeing each other on screen, but hopefully we will soon in person. Right, so to go back to the question, let's just follow on from Simi's identification of depression and how it really isn't identifiable as depression in young people. If we're talking about like the age groups that I predominantly deal with are 13 to 25-year-olds. And with the 13 to 25-year-olds, it's very difficult to identify depression from what is normal teenage behavior. And, you know, again, to pick up on something that Simi said, that is the age, those are the ages when children do act out, when children do play up. They are also going through all of their puberty blues, and these are just puberty blues. Once the hormones settle, they will come out of it. What's happening that we've seen more and more is that quite often puberty blues are being identified as depression. And then if at a very young age, a child is identified as having depression and then maybe even prescribed antidepressants, then that tends to stick. And then that is very difficult. It's like a label, isn't it? And it's very difficult then for the child who would normally have grown out of the puberty blues, then for that child to not be labeled as depressed when they go to university, for that child themselves not to think of themselves as, oh yeah, okay, but I suffer from depression. They go all different ways because that's how they've been identified when they were 13, when in fact it was purely hormonal changes. It was purely something that needed to biologically work its way through the next 2 or 4 or 6 years. But because over the past few years, mental health has quite rightly come, into the spotlight more, and it did need to come into the spotlight. But quite often there is this urgency to label what are normal growing up teenage behaviors often as depression. And depression is a very big, serious identifier in its own right. And to place it on such young shoulders at such a young age is a very heavy label to bear. And I think there's a prevalence of that. I don't know, Simi, if you come across it in your work. We come across it in the youth and community work a lot. And it's very difficult then for the young person to go on to university or somewhere, and that label goes with them. It goes in their medical records or in their academic records or any other records. And that
absolutely. In fact, I agree with you. I at the moment have a young girl who's just been discharged. She's a straight A-star student. She's got 4 A-stars.
Yeah.
While she was with me in the hospital, she learned German, she learned skating.
Wow.
She was tutoring other children on A levels.
Okay.
And now she's going to Oxford to study languages.
Wow, that's amazing.
But it is amazing. And her main concern was not to have that label follow her to Oxford, because she was worried that she might lose her place.
Yeah.
Because of the stigma attached to the whole thing.
Exactly.
And it's such a shame, because some emotions are natural. Sadness is a natural emotion.
Yeah.
When you lose contact with a friend for whatever reason, you are allowed to feel sad, just as adults, when we fall out with a friend, we feel sad. That doesn't mean we are depressed.
No. No.
And, you know, the thing is that mental health is so stigmatized, not just in UK, but all over the world, and especially in India, where they will not even talk about mental illness.
No,
So
no,
it
that's in India.
that makes it even more difficult for a child to
Hmm.
come to his or her parent and say, I'm upset.
Hmm. Yeah.
So here's what I have for question for Anju. Anju, I have my child itself has actually told me this. I have everything that I can dream of, right? So what right do I have to be sad? And I said, that is a state of mind. You can't use that as a beating stick for you. In your circumstance, Anju, you must have met children who come from um, struggling backgrounds or not strong backgrounds. How have you been able to understand ये depression hai, and what should I do to help this child who's come to my house to be looked after?
Thank you, Darshini. Thank you very much, Darshini, for having me and Rashmi Mishra and inspiring Indian women to have me on board. And it's nice to share my experience as a foster carer and also done child minding with Ofsted for 15 years, a long journey with it. And actually, I have had a very different experiences with children, with different types of children, different backgrounds, not only Indian or other backgrounds. Yes, there were other ethnic backgrounds. They were coming to me, and not only one, they were coming in siblings. And it has been a challenging way, but I think it's a very good, as a parent, I would say, it's nice to spend a lot of time as they're getting older. If you give them time and love, that solves a lot of problem and confidence to a child that yes, you can. And it's easy if you make them say, it's easy to understand. It's easy. Yes, we can do it together. We can fight for any cause if somebody is bullying. But there are signs and symptoms for bullying, which you can trigger it out amongst your children when the child is quiet. As I've heard the experts saying, yes, according to the different stages of life, that is a big thing. When the girls have periods, they don't know what to say. They don't know how to deal with it. They have pimples. They don't
Sorry,
know.
Anjuji,
Yeah.
your voice is echo.
Is
Is
it
there
okay?
is there two in your area?
No,
Somebody's got two gadgets echoing.
no. I've only got on my phone.
Rashmi, can you mute him?
Okay, let me mute Kirti ji. Let me see. Okay, now carry on. And I want to also, I can see a very prominent individual here joined us, Mr. Sharad Parik ji. Sharad Parik ji, namaskar to you. It's such a privilege to have you here. As far as I know, you are part of the Gandhi Foundation in UK, and we are indeed very happy to have you here. Thank you so much. And please do give your inputs whenever you can. Yeah. Okay. Continue, Darshini. Let's see if this echoes now.
Okay. Anjuji, carry on. You were saying?
Yes, there are ways how you can trigger these issues. When I used to get like three siblings from different backgrounds, and they sometimes very uncomfortable. They don't want to talk about, but then you can see their body language. That's one of the main quite big thing that you can find out that they're having some issues. They won't be eating well. They're not sleeping well. There are certain ways of triggering their problems. And then again, as a foster carer, I did have a support from our social workers where we used to personally discuss and help the child to deal with their issues. But luckily, I was very lucky and blessed to have good children, and they've done very well within 3 months. They came out of depressions. I used to spend a lot of time with them. Artwork is very good to get them out of depression, like you're sitting and asking them to doing some paintings, some drawings, or what the interest was, singing, dancing, something they enjoy. And as Asian families are concerned, yes, there are a lot of pressures on Asian children, what people are going to say. Log kya kahenge? That is a big thing. And children are not supposed to tell the depression part to their friends, to their family friends, or to share. The only people they can either share with their parents or the teachers, but they do not know how to get a help. But as a parent, or we can support the child and we can talk to professionals to see how we can get help for our child, how they can help us in that moment and get them out of depression. That is a very big thing these days. Yes, there are cyber bullying, which is phones. Children are getting triggered on their social media. But somewhere along the line, as a parent, we can either discuss with the school teacher or the professional and try to see why the child and where the children are getting depressed.
Okay, so one of the things that this conversation from yourself, Anju, we've picked up, which is a very good perspective, because you've dealt with lots of different children from different backgrounds over the years. Your good perspective was that you could watch the body language, and those were key trigger points which you noticed, which were probably areas where you knew that that child needed looking after. Coming back to Kirti and Simi, I wanted to talk to you about this new trend that, well, I call it a trend because, you know, when I talk to my teenage children, why don't you look at, you know, if you're stressed out about something, or if you feel that life is getting on top of you, look at meditation, or, you know, try understanding what other processes such as mindfulness is. As professionals in this business, do you sort of advise children to look at these topics? So I'll ask this question to Simi first, and then Kirti, you can take over.
So I would say that yes, I advise it to my patients. Unfortunately, I can't get my children to do it. It's like I have tried meditation, I've tried yoga, I have tried, the Tibetan musical bowl. I have tried using the glitter box. I don't know whether you're aware of that, where you have a glitter bottle and they're supposed to be concentrate. I made my own glitter bottle for them, and you shake up the glitter bottle, and as the things are settling down, they're supposed to be concentrating on the glitter settling down. But neither of my children took to it at all. So I think different things work differently for different children, and we have to see what they want. I have even ordered books about teenagers and how to deal with emotions, which my son doesn't even look at. So I think it's a very complex thing. While we know it works for children to be sitting in one place and doing mindfulness, or I mean at least my elder one does coloring. You know, those you get those books where you do the coloring and it helps you concentrate a bit more. Yeah, so he does that, but my younger one can't be bothered to even do that. But what he does is he has got this whole set of magnets that he builds very elaborate structures with. So I think we have to be led by our children to see, and the same with our patients, that what works for one does not necessarily work for the other person.
Okay, so what you're saying is that each individual, child or otherwise, whether they're going through bullying, whether they're going through depression, will have to be sort of met with, examined, and a system that works for them will have to be used to settle their nerves. Kirti, what is your opinion on dealing with children that go through these traumatic situations, and what would you recommend other than, you know, your course of treatment?
Oh, yeah, it is again very individual. It is, like Simi says, what works for one may not work for another. So when you find you're dealing with, like I was saying, a lot of my work is the 13 to 25 age group. Now that is a very, very diverse age group, because what works for a 13-year-old will not necessarily work for a 25-year-old, but the converse is also true. What works for a 13-year-old may work for the 25-year-old. Like, for example, say art therapy. I could be doing some kind of art therapy with a 13-year-old because they're not able to talk. They're not able to actually verbally, convey to us whatever it is that they're going through, whether it is, like I said earlier, whether it is something like puberty blues, something that all human beings go through during the puberty years. So it doesn't need to be labeled as depression. So it could be something as simple as that. And, just putting stuff on the table. It might just involve putting some crayons or some paints, or I don't know if you've seen those multicolored pipe cleaner things. Put something like that and they might sit there twiddling with them or making shapes out of them. But that could equally work well with a university student who is in their 20s, and it might be a student who's actually doing something very, let's say, bookish, like an accountancy degree or something. But you sit there and you have those multicolored pipe cleaners there, and you have maybe finger paints or something there, and that 22-year-old student might start just playing around with the art materials that are just left on the table in front. So it's each young person will have their own way of expressing their pain to you. And it's for us as the adults to look for those signs, whether that young person is in our home and expressing their signs through their behaviors in our house or at the dining table or in some other way, or whether it's actually a client in the therapist's room, and sometimes they come into the therapist's room and they're not able to talk at all. They may have been referred by the school, they may have been referred by the GP, they may have just been brought there by their parents. And so they're sitting there in front of you and they're looking downwards and they're shuffling their feet and they're not saying anything at all. So it's up to you to find a way that works, that speaks to that young person who is in front of you, and whether that's through some kind of art activity, whether that's through some kind of talking therapy, whether it's something else, but it is our jobs as the adults in the piece to find a way for that young person to communicate their pain to us. So it's all individual and it's all, yeah.
And I think that it's a useful tool. And as parents who will watch this program at one point or the other, if they do, it is important for you to see those triggers, the ones Anju mentioned, the ones Simi's talking about, the Kirti's mentioning that might work for 13 to 22-year-olds. And if you have children within those age groups, it is important for you to understand that one sort of response doesn't fit for all. Because is here from the Gandhian principle. Before I go to anyone else, I'm going to ask you a question, Sharatji.
Sorry, Darshini, can I add on one or two things?
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
I, as a foster carer, I have actually figured out one thing. You should divert the attention of the child. If you divert the attention and become at their age, and try to find, like, put the music on, see if they are listening to the music, a dance program, are they enjoying? These are the things that you have got painting, try to paint in front of them. See if they are interested. If you see the eye contact that they are concentrating, that means they want to do painting, but it's not coming out of them. So that time that you get triggered that, yes, this child is interested in dance or painting or a music, then you can do a little dance with them, like a little exercise, without letting them know that, yes, they are doing a yoga or something. You do a light dancing, exercise things. So at least their mind is diverted out of the thing and they can speak out. And you're also becoming like their age. That's what we normally do in the foster caring, and we have to experiment different things for different children, different situations. These are certain things, taking the mind diversion off from the things, putting the music on, doing artwork in front of them. Some children enjoy music, dance,
Yeah.
painting,
So
writing.
I understand what you're saying, and I think those are important points. I mean, as someone that runs a language school, a dance and drama school, I feel that, Asian parents concentrate too much on academics and worry less about their mental and creative outputs. And I chose a sports-based school for my children because I didn't want my child to just be a bookworm, but I wanted them to be creative, which I could provide them at home, and a sporty person because I could show them how to work in a team thing. Sharadji, my question for you was, nowadays children are constantly on gadgets, right? They're constantly focused on things that really stimulate them. Their pulses are throbbing, their adrenaline is pumping. You come from a Gandhian perspective, a Gandhian way of living. What advice would you give to young people, adults, and older generation to deal with problems such as bullying, depression, loneliness, with those principles in mind?
Thank you very much for giving me this platform to be talking, because what you are discussing is a very complex issues. And from the Gandhian point of view, we know that the times have changed. What may have been right in Gandhi's time may not be correct now, but as we all famously know, Gandhiji being thrown off a train in South Africa, that is termed being bullied into being thrown off a train. That injustice of being bullied is what strengthened and made his character, and we famously know exactly what evolved from that. And with Gandhiji, of course, he overcame that, and he says so in his books about the truth of his experiences, is that in the end, it is the mind and how you develop your mind. But of course, in the young age of, as we mentioned, 13-year-olds and younger, that discipline of the mind may not be there. I would say that the other problem is in bullying is to identify that your children are being bullied in the first place. Children are very good at masking their emotions, and there may be obvious things that parents can look for in their behavior, but they may not associate that with bullying. In our own case, my son went to a private boarding school in Leatherhead, Surrey, and he used to come with bruises on his face, and he always used to say they had rugby. And it was well into the second year that we realized that he was being bullied. And of course, when we complained to the school and the children who were being part of that bullying team, once they were told off, the child actually suffered even more. And it was many years later that he said that we did them no favor by coming and complaining to the school. Two children were being picked on, and one of them was my son. And the other boy, later on in life, committed suicide. That is how serious these issues that you are discussing, and how to address them and actually address them for parents is a very big problem. In Gandhi's case, of course, he overcame that because he had already, later in life, been able to find the strength to overcome by just being firm in his mind. What you think, you become, and he paid no attention to discomforts.
But
That's
there, Sharaji, to ask you a very important question, because you raised a very important subject about how to deal with what parents go through. Simi, Kirti ji, Anju ji all have explained, and you have as well, that each situation warrants a different response. But as a parent, if we don't complain to the school, if our child does not want us to do that, what is the closest thing we can do to help without putting them in a difficult situation, in your opinion? I'm not saying what works.
Yes. In my opinion, it is to awaken the self-esteem of the child. Unfortunately, the child feels ashamed, and in our culture, they don't like to tell the parents they're being bullied because they think there's something inferior in them. That complex that they carry, they don't want to let the parents down. That weakness that we have in over protecting the children is part of the problem. When it comes to the child and being told how he can actually handle bullying, we know of parents who put their children through doing karate classes and boxing so that they could defend themselves in situation. For girls, they used to give them gadgets where they can set off an alarm and things like that. But
Yes,
it's a serious issue in the sense that it's the self-confidence that you've got to build first, that the child needs to be taught that he's not inferior in any way.
okay, thank you for your advice on this. And I love the statement that you make, and I'm going to use this to wake me up in the mornings and share it with my children. Awakening the self-esteem. I think as Asian people, because I mean, this is what I genuinely felt in my early days of when I migrated to this country. Although having lived here for 23 years, I still have moments in me which I will feel slightly more inferior to maybe a local person. Well, I hope that my children don't face that, because they're born and brought up here. And as Asian, we have to empower our children to feel really good about themselves. As we're coming to the program,
Sorry, Darshini, I'm going to add a couple of things, which as a parent, and there are some governors body in the school. Each school has, and that when you feel that your child is being bullied, you can talk confidentially with this head teachers, and there are some actually internal bodies. They're working on it, and which they can help without you can talk to other parents, and which they can help in school as they study. And as a parent, I also, what I did, I have got boys. So I made sure that when my children were young, I started off with their cubs, and then they went to scouts. And a very important thing, apart from academic studies, we should let the children take part in activities which are held at school. They can go on a school trips, they enjoy, and a lot of activities they can do to help their mental health as well.
Okay, thank you for that. What I would like to end this program today, because bullying and mental health is such a vast topic. 1 hour hardly is enough time to have experts like Simi and Kirti, and yourself, of course. Thank you, Anju and Sharaji, for being a part of this. But before I go, and before we all say thank you to you, I would like both Simi and Kirti to give us some basic advice for Asian parents and non-Asian parents with the stigma of reaching for mental health experts when there is a problem, and what you would tell parents who watch this program after that this is important. Why? If you can summarize your thoughts on this topic, because for me, I think awareness is one step towards a solution. So I'm going to ask with you, Simi, first. First of all, what would you advise parents and how to deal with this? And what are the avenues available in the NHS to support your child?
Well, firstly, I would say keep talking to your child. Even if your child does not want to talk to you, you still keep the channels of communication open. I would say that in the NHS, the waiting list for CAMS, mental health, child and adolescent mental health is very long. But there are a lot of charities that do talking therapies with youngsters. So look in your local area for those kind of charities where the child, like my own child, even though I'm a psychiatrist, will not want to talk to me about it, but might feel more comfortable talking about it to somebody who is a neutral person.
Correct.
So those are the avenues you need to approach. If it be approach a private psychotherapist, because you can't wait. NHS waiting lists are like 6 months to 1 year. You cannot wait for that long, to be honest. So maybe look for a private therapist or look for charities that offer. And many times what I have personally noticed is that these are adolescents identity crisis that they're going through. They are going through emotions that they have never experienced before, so they don't need a psychiatrist or a psychotherapist as such. They just need somebody whom they can talk to and who understands what they are going through. And very often the charities have young people who can support them in their thought process, who understand what they're going through. So that would be my view about the whole thing.
I think that I will take a point from here, which I hope if people listen to it afterwards will understand and find that it will be really, really helpful. I myself have done called about 35 psychotherapists and psychiatrists and psychologists in my time of need for a child for myself. And I realized that there was no avenue. Eventually, I had to say to myself, you know what, I'm going to go out for a couple of meals less. I'll probably spend a little bit less on myself. But if I need to pay some money to give my child help, that is more important. If I can't do that, then I must reach out to a charity which is local, which will help my child to talk about his problems. Thank you, Simi, for this amazing and really helpful contribution. And I hope people that listen to this program afterwards do follow up on this and listen to your child and watch your child do this. Okay, coming to Kirti. Kirti, as I was looking at all the different areas that you deal with, is Kirti still around? I can't see. I'm just going to check if she. Yeah, great. I was looking at all these different areas or aspects of mental health, which is anxiety disorders, mood disorders, I don't know, schizophrenia, eating disorders, dementia, all of these aspects. There's so many, right? And bullying is one of these. As a mental health expert, what do you tell parents? Look, if you're coming with a problem to me, this is the step. This is the step by treatment that I offer. And if I'm not helpful, where should you go?
All right. Okay. So when the parents come to me, whether they come to me in my capacity at one of the universities, or whether they come to me in my capacity at one of the charities, or whether they come to me in my capacity as a private practitioner, whatever capacity somebody comes to me, the first thing I do is say, the first session is free of charge, because I need to first find out if the relationship between myself and your young person is going to work. We need to find out if we can communicate, if we're able to create a relationship between each other. So the first session is always free of charge, because I want to be sure that the young person is comfortable with me and I'm comfortable with the young person. So, for any parents out there, whether the practitioner you go to charges you for that first session or doesn't charge, but do follow your child's reaction from that first meeting. Because if your child says to you, I wasn't really comfortable talking to him, then you know you can't continue. That person could be the greatest psychoanalyst on this planet for young people's problems. That person could have the Nobel Prize in child psychology, and you know, you might be being gifted 12 sessions free. I'm giving you 12 sessions free with the child psychologist of the decade on this planet. But if your child sits for a 45-minute session with them and they're not feeling it, you have to give the remaining 11 sessions to some other parent, because your child is not feeling it. If they're not feeling it, they can't be helped. If they can't be helped, whatever mental anguish they're going through is going to continue. So, you know, even if that practitioner is not saying the first session is free, because I want to know if your child and I bond in that room, even if you have to pay for it, write off the payment, just write it off. I know you said one point, but I'm going to give you one more point, which is going to be really helpful for parents, is we, Asian parents, and I say Asian parents across the board, you know, Chinese, Pakistani, Korean, Japanese, all Asian parents, we are really good at finding tuition for our children.
Yes.
As soon as our children are struggling with their grades, we're there like a shot. I need a tutor for maths, need a tutor for English. What else do you need tuition in? What else? What other grades are failing? We are so good at finding the best tutors and the best tuition. And if after, say, maybe the first 6 weeks, by half term, if we don't see an improvement in the grades, we're like, this tuition is probably not that good. I'm going to find another tutor. We have to adopt that quick fire response to our children's mental health. Just the same way we will pay £45 an hour for tuition, we should be happy to pay. Sometimes it's even half of that, because a lot of people do it through the charities. And so when they do it through the charities, there are so many local mental health youth charities that you'll probably be paying just £20-30 an hour. Sometimes it might even be free on your circumstances. So be prepared to spend on your child's mental health the way you spend on your child's tuition, trainers, everything else. Just do it. It's an investment. It's an investment in their future, because it will make them a better student in their teens, a better student if they go on to university, a better, happier person in their place of employment, ultimately a better partner, father or mother or whatever they go on to become, because their mental health will be on a good foundation, on a firm foundation. And that's what we want. The goal is that. Thanks so much. I'm sorry. It's because I'm so passionate about it.
And I think, you know, all of us to some extent are connected to these things. I've been in a situation where I really needed help, and I found the help that I needed. And the most important thing I felt was like the typical helicopter mom, I found a tutor. And one of the things that the tutor did for my child was actually quite a bad thing, because they said to my child, they can't achieve what they were set out to achieve. That broke my child down. And for me, that was traumatic. As a parent, I collapsed, and I was like, this is what I signed up for. And I, at that point, realized that first I should work on the mind, then the education. So as a parent, as a woman, in this pious occasion of Navratri, my advice to every woman, and every man has a woman inside of them as well, because that is that nurturing side of the human Ardhanari,
the yin and the yang, the Ardhanarishwar.
So I think it's important that we understand who our child is. Thank you so much, Simi Sachdeva Mohan, for giving us your advice. The main thing that you taught all of us was keeping the channels of communication with your child open. That's the one thing that I will take away from you, and I'm sure other people will have different things that they've taken away from the conversation. Sharaji, thank you for sharing your personal story about bullying, and I'm sure it'll motivate parents to find a better approach to dealing with their child's problems. Kirti, thank you for joining, and your passion with children's mental health is what keeps people like you at the top of your game and helping other people who need it. So thank you for sharing your perspective. Anju, you did a great service to humanity by fostering lots of children. And thank you, and God will give you lots of different ways to channelize your energy. Rashmi Mishra ji,
Well, recently I've been told by the police to come and serve the community. And I said, I need little time, let the COVID be out. Probably I might be going and helping other children that way. But do give a lot of love to the children from the day they are born, and be their friends, be with them, try to do more things together, going for a walk, dancing, singing. That is a good therapy, along with the tuitions, with your own thing. Sometimes the girls enjoy cooking, and make them get into more activities as well. Thank you.
correct. Well said. Rashmi Mishra, in these 2 years of COVID, you have, with the help of my powerful women interviews and various other things that you've done throughout the months, you have educated us globally. And I think that is a great service to humanity. So for all the awards that you're getting, well, keep on getting them, and hope you keep sharing your enthusiasm to grow our community here in the UK as ever. My one last thought, as in Navratri, I think it's important that we find the Shakti within us. We find the power within us to be stronger. Navratri is not just wearing your backless chanya cholis and playing garba. Navratri is also about spirituality, also about empowering yourself to be better human beings, being sattvic internally and being healthy. So I think I found this quote, which I found really important. Who are you? There is a gentleman called Kabat-Zinn who says mindfulness is awareness that arises through paying attention on purpose in the present moment, non-judgmentally. So as Asians, let's not judge other people. Let's judge ourselves and our activities and understand who our children are and communicate. Thank you, Rashmi Mishra. And
Darshini, can I just say one thing? I don't think we need to judge ourselves, because we tend to be very harsh when we
True.
judge ourselves. I think we just have to accept who we are and go from strength to strength from there.
Absolutely. That's a strong perspective. And I think that it's hard, but we shall try and encompass that in this good month. This is Darshini Joshi say thank you to all of you for watching us and listening to us. And I hope you've learned, or at least enjoyed listening to different stories, and maybe, taken something useful for your life from us. Rashmi, any last thoughts?
Yeah, thank you so much.
Namaste. Thank you for having us.
Thank you. Thank you. Have a great evening. Bye.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you so much, all of you, for being part of Inspiring Indian Women. And while I see the Facebook, I can see that there has been already 300 people reach as of now within an hour. So by tonight, it's going to cross more than 2,000 views. So this will be uploaded on YouTube for further view, and you can also catch it again whenever you want on Inspiring Indian Women community page, where it has been telecast live. Do keep an eye on Inspiring Indian Women for further programs. But of course, we are now moving slowly and steadily to physical events. And our first physical event is going to happen very soon, the pre-Karwa Chauth in Mehfil Restaurant in South Hall. And after that, Croydon Diwali. keep an eye, keep watching us. Of course, we keep on there won't be ever end to a Zoom events. We will have it, but the frequency may now come little slower than before. Thank you so much. Take care, everybody. Thank you once again. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Rashmi, for having me.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.